Why in the world would I do that? Love your enemies. How does that make you any different if you only love people who love you? He says, and if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Hey, people who don't even believe in God, people who don't care about God at all, don't they already greet their friends? If that's where you draw the line, how are you any different than any old sinner out there? Do you ever cheer for someone to fail? Now, don't raise your hands for these. Well, you can if you want to, but you're going to look really petty, so just keep your hands down. Is there someone you know, and secretly you would love to see them fail? Maybe it's your size 0 sister-in-law, or your brother-in-law who never stops bragging about his stuff. Maybe it's someone you don't even know in real life. Maybe there's a politician that if that person failed, you would love it. You would celebrate that. Maybe it's a celebrity that just annoys you, someone you don't even know. But is there anyone you would secretly cheer their failure? If so, this is going to apply to you. How about this one? Is there someone from whom you withhold respect or love? Maybe they don't act in a respectful way. Maybe they don't act in a loving way. Maybe they're constantly disrespecting you or dishonoring you, or they take you for granted, and as a result, you withhold respect or love for them. If there is someone like that, then what Jesus taught in this section is for you. How about this? Is there anyone you resent? For whatever reason, they just get on your last nerve. You begrudge them. Maybe it's your parents. Maybe it's someone from your family of origin. You don't enjoy going there for the holidays anymore. Maybe they're the reason you stopped going there for the holidays. But is there anyone in your life you resent? Because if you do, then this section of the Sermon on the Mount is for you. Here's another one. Is there anyone who makes your life more difficult? You see, many of us, we didn't raise our hands to the question of, do you have any enemies? But if I had asked the question, is there someone in your life who makes your life more difficult, you would have looked to the left and right and then sheepishly did one of these, right? Or we all would have raised our hands for that one, but this is really what this is getting after. If there is anyone who makes your life more difficult, then what Jesus had to say about how to respond to life with our enemies is for you. So today, with whoever is in mind with those questions, we're going to read from Matthew chapter 5, beginning at verse 38. You have heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. Now, this saying, eye for eye and tooth for tooth, it was a part of all ancient law codes, and it was called the law of retaliation. The law of retaliation was there to say, if damage is done, if injustice is done, then an equal amount of consequence should be put into effect. Now, this was a direct quote from the Old Testament scriptures in the book of Exodus. It said, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, and it just keeps on going in this way for a while. And this was not unique to Israelite culture. Hammurabi's Code of Laws, for example, in the 18th century BC, had the exact same principle built in. Now, at first, it sounds like this is promoting retaliation, like this is promoting revenge, but actually, the exact opposite is true. It's limiting revenge. It's putting a cap on retaliation. And we see that in the word for eye, tooth for tooth. Our English word for in the original language in Greek is the word anti. Now they pronounce it anti, but anti, which is our word for, it's our prefix that says against. I'm against this. Now, it can mean that in Greek. It can mean against something, but it's a versatile word, and context has to help us understand what it means. One of the other translations means in the place of or instead of, which is why our translators translate this word anti as for. It's not eye against eye or tooth against tooth, but if damage is done that knocks out a tooth, then an equal compensation should be made. And this was not for individuals to seek revenge. This was the guiding principle their judges were supposed to use when administering justice. Now, we want to see and generally see the same principle at work in our modern justice systems today. So if you're injured in a car accident and you make one call, the liable person is not then made to get in a car and smashed into a wall. That would be eye for eye. No. There's compensation awarded that is equal to the amount of damage that was done. That was the principle baked into this law. And the wisdom behind it was that we would not go to places of cycles of revenge and feuding families. And we've seen this at different parts of history. For example, the Hatfields and the McCoys were real families in the 19th century. A dispute over a hog led to over a dozen people being killed between these two rival families. Okay? There was no law of retaliation in place to say, hey, here's the limit. Let's just deal with it on the hog level and not take it up to human lives. Or even Shakespeare's The Montagues and the Capulets were based on real families who lived in the city of Venice. Or maybe you're familiar with the feud between Tom and Jerry, which led to untold numbers of mouse traps slapped onto fingers and sticks of dynamite blowing up and yard rakes right into the face. But the principle is appropriate consequence should be paid for injustices that are done in the world. And everyone listening in the audience agreed, yep, that makes sense, that's fair, that's how it should be, that's the going understanding. And it's in their scriptures, and Jesus said, but I tell you, but wait, there's more. But I tell you, this is so hard, do not resist an evil person. A what person? What person? Do not resist an evil person. Now, on the surface, what does this sound like? It sounds like he's saying, allow yourself to become a victim. Allow yourself to become victimized by evil people. Don't stand up for yourself. Don't stand up for justice. Allow injustice to happen. That's what it sounds like on the surface. However, we know that's not what Jesus is teaching for two reasons. The first one is in the very next sentence, he's going to tell us exactly the godly way to resist an evil person. But the second way is hidden in that word resist. The word resist that we have here, I'm going to show you a little more Greek, is anti-stemi. Now, stemi means to stand, but there's our word again, anti, which can be translated as against, as in stand against, which we would translate as resist, but this is a play on words. Just as anti in the previous sentence meant in the place of, now don't stand in the place of an evil person, or in other words, don't have an in-kind response. If someone does evil to you, don't respond by becoming an evil person in kind. That's what he's warning about. Don't do evil when evil is done to you. Don't continue the spiral of evil in your own heart. That's the warning. And now, instead, he gives three very real examples from their generation on three scenarios where they were likely to encounter evil on a daily basis. Make sure that nobody pays back. This is from Paul in 1 Thessalonians. This is his interpretation of the verse. Make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong, but always strive to do what is good for each other and for everyone else. So the principle is don't pay back evil for evil or wrong for wrong. So moving on, what we see is this. Don't do evil when evil is done to you. That's the principle. Don't do evil when evil is done to you. Instead, here are three examples on how to respond to evil. He said, if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. Now, notice that Jesus doesn't say if somebody slaps you, let him slap you twice. What does he say? If somebody slaps you on the right cheek. So let's say I'm standing in front of you, which I am, and I slap you on your right cheek. That either means I am one of the few people in the world who is left-handed, which I am not, or it means I slapped you with the back of my hand. Very Tom and Jerry move. Now, what's interesting is in this culture, that was actually a thing. To give someone a backhanded slap was a way to dehumanize someone, to look down on someone, to declare someone to be of lower status and stature than you. It's what a master would do to a slave. It's what a Roman soldier would do to an Israelite. A backhanded slap was to dehumanize someone, to embarrass someone, to mock someone, to say, you are less than me. You are lower than me. You are simply less than and worthless. So Jesus says, if someone mocks you in that way, turn to them the other cheek also. If you're going to slap me, sir, give me an open-handed slap. You may try to mock me, but I will not allow you to denigrate me. I will not allow you to put me in a place where I am seen as less than human or as less valuable than you are, because all humanity has dignity and worth because we are equally made in the image of God. So what we see here is a form of nonviolent resistance that subverts their cultural norms and stands up in a strong way for dignity. So it wasn't about physical assault. It wasn't about getting punched in the nose or anything like that. It was about the insult. And say, no. Insult me as an equal. You can disagree with me, but disagree with me as an equal. That was the first situation they would encounter in their day and age. Then he moves on to the second one. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. Now remember, these are people living in poverty. Most people only had one set of clothes. And so they would have a shirt, or is also known as a tunic, and they would also have a coat, which was pretty critical because it did get cold there, especially at night. And so there was a law in the Old Testament scriptures that said if someone owed you money, or let's say if you owe someone money, they could take your coat as collateral. However, because it got cold at night, you had to loan it back to them at night so they didn't freeze to death. We find this law in the book of Exodus. It said if you take your neighbor's cloak as a pledge, return it by sunset because that cloak is the only covering your neighbor has. This isn't about punishing someone. This is about honoring someone. Yes, they owe you some money, or yes, they owe you something, so their coat is your collateral, but let them borrow it back at night so they don't freeze to death. That was the principle. So what some unscrupulous people were doing in Jesus' generation was this. Well, I don't want to give back the coat, so I'm going to sue you for your shirt. I'll take your tunic. And the reason why that was unscrupulous is because that was hidden. Nobody knew that the shirt was missing because they had their coat on. So they had to have their hot coat on all day, and then at night, their itchy goat hair or whatever coat it was, camel hair coat, would just itch at them all night long. So Jesus said, if someone's doing something unscrupulous like that, don't let it slide. Don't play the victim card. Just take off your coat. That's right, down to your skin. Hand them that as well. Say, there you go. Apparently you need it more than I do. But what you're doing is you're drawing attention to their injustice. You're drawing attention to the fact that they're not handling things in an honorable or godly or righteous or just way. So Jesus is advocating for incredibly creative, nonviolent ways to expose injustice in the world. Now, there's another example. He says, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Now, there was a law in ancient Rome that any Roman soldier could force any non-Roman citizen to be their pack animal for 1 mile. They have gear to carry. They have something to carry. They could commandeer anybody at any time and say, hey, you, carry this, and make you walk with them 1 mile. Now, interestingly enough, when Jesus carried his cross to Golgotha and he did not have the strength to carry it, the Roman soldiers invoked this law to make Simon from Cyrene carry the cross for Jesus. It was this rule. It was this law. Now imagine how dehumanizing that would be. Okay, let's say you've got somewhere to be and it's important and you're on your way and a Roman soldier stops you, says, here, carry my bag. And you have to go 1 mile out of your way carrying it for them, then 1 mile back to where you were just to go on with your day. That's an hour of your time just wasted like that. And you have no rights. You have to just be their pack animal. Or imagine you're a dad and you're out with your boys. And all of a sudden this Roman soldier comes along and treats you like a pack animal and says, hey, you carry this for me. Right in front of your own sons. You're just humiliated. It was awful. So Jesus says, so if someone forces you to go 1 mile, Yeah, you have to. You don't have any choice. Follow the law. But at the end of that mile, here's what I want you to do. I want you to redefine the relationship. I want you to offer them your hospitality and generosity and friendship. Go with them another mile. They now have no power over you. They cannot make you, they cannot ask you to do anything. So you say, oh, I can go another mile. Tell me about yourself. What's it like moving here from wherever you're from? What's life back home? Do you miss your family? Show incredible, unreasonable hospitality when they do this to you. That's what he's getting at. Redefine relationships through surprising acts of hospitality.